The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Welcome, everyone, to the bonus show where I am free to curse as much as I want to curse, but I'm not. So just I want to talk to you. I want to get completely away from politics, and I want to talk to you about my Lord and Savior Jesus. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. Don't freak out. I was watching a video on Facebook. This is actually a topic that I feel like I've discussed with you before. I was watching a video on Facebook of this really adorable, he had to be elementary school age little boy, a little perfect little dreads, little, reminded me of my son, except my son doesn't have any dreads. And he was telling, it was a funny video about whether or not he should fight a bully. And it was really well done. It was a comic sketch. And he was like, his bullying policy is that if so-and-so punches him and gives him a black eye, he's going to give so-and-so a black eye, and they'll just be in timeout together. Versus going to tell the teacher. It's a really adorable video. It's got like 12 million views on Facebook. And I'm watching it and I'm like, that's exactly literally what I teach my son. But I felt a little strange about him teaching this little boy, telling everybody that, because some things I don't know. I don't think you should promote. Maybe, I don't know. Could be wrong. I probably am wrong about this, but I don't know. I just felt a little weird about him, the little boy, promoting that and like 12 million people sharing it and seeing it. Now, I agree with them. I totally agree, because I tell my son all the time, listen, one of the things you have to do, okay, actually, if I were to, I have discussed this, but not with you. I do recall having this discussion a long time ago. The question was that I posed for an audience was, do we teach our kids do we try to teach our kids to not bully, or do we teach our kids to stand up to bullies? And I know it's not an either or, but schools really do treat it like it's either or. They insist. They have a zero tolerance. Even if you're fighting a bully, you still get suspended. But our society doesn't do a good job at teaching people not to be bullies. I mean, fundamentally, everybody's going to deal with a bully. And the only way to honestly deal with a bully is to confront the bully. So the schools across the country have a zero tolerance. Everybody gets suspended no matter what the case is. And then they have the complete inability to actually, both the schools as well as parents seem to have the complete inability to raise kids without them being bullies. It almost makes sense that we have to just teach our children to fight. And use fighting as a last resort, but you're gonna have to defend yourself at some point. I personally think that is a necessary trait. It was necessary for me growing up. It was necessary for so many people, because even politically, right? Even though I said I wanted to get away completely from politics, we're literally dealing with bullies, political terrorists who want to destroy our country. And we don't have many leaders like Chuck Schumer. Like, what is he doing? They're not fighting. They're not fighting the same way that the Republicans are fighting to do the wrong thing. And my motto has always been, like, or at least it's been for the last couple of years, is that if people are willing to fight to do the wrong thing, we sure as hell have to be willing to fight to do the right thing. I don't know. I extrapolated very far away from the kids and bullies and whatnot. But I think there's a connecting thread philosophically there. And the connecting thread is that we don't want to fight. We don't want to use violence. We don't want to burn down institutions like the filibuster and the Senate in general. We don't want to have to hold a line and scorch the earth. We don't want to have to burn down the entire forest just to get the one villain, to borrow from Batman. What is it? The Dark Knight? To borrow from The Dark Knight. That's the movie. We don't want to have to do these things, is the point. But when you find people, it's coming back to me now. When you find people, I'm so dramatic. When you find people who are willing to burn down everything in order to get their political agenda accomplished, or when you find people whose political agenda is to burn down everything, then you can't sit by and not throw some punches, rhetorically and sometimes, unfortunately, literally. Which goes to the reason I paused a moment ago. It's because it reminds me of Karl Popper's paradox, tolerance paradox. The fact of the matter is if we don't draw the line somewhere, there will always be people who know we're not going to do anything about their intolerance. And they, in turn, will take our tolerant society and make it intolerant. They will destroy our tolerant society because of our tolerance. Therefore, those of us who would prefer to be tolerant, those of us who would prefer not to have to fight the bully, we have a responsibility to be intolerant to intolerance. Because if we're not intolerant to intolerance, then intolerance will destroy our society. I obviously did not explain it as good as Karl Popper does, but go look up the Karl Popper's intolerance paradox. And I don't know, maybe I see how everything connects that I just got through talking about. I honestly see how telling my son that, son, if somebody punches you in the eye, you punch them back. And simultaneously, I tell him, I don't want you to have to fight, but sometimes you're just going to have to. And I just wish that we could have peaceful warriors like that politically. Like, I wish that we could have people who prefer not to fight, but will fight. I was watching 13 days, a long time ago, but one quote that stood out the most. 13 Days is the Cuban Missile Crisis story. JFK, RFK, Brezhnev. And so anyway, the Cuban Missile Crisis story, you know the story. And everyone was asking Bobby Kennedy if his brother will fire nukes back. Will he retaliate against Russia, against Cuba and Russia? And Bobby said, he essentially said, I'm paraphrasing, he said that, you know, John, JFK, he is a man who wants peace. And the fact that he wants peace means that he will wage war as hard as he can, as you know, he'll do it in order for the peace. And I completely massacred that. It's been like at least 10 years since I've seen it, but that the sentiment stands out, is that if you take a peaceful person, a person who prefers to be peaceful, and you put them in a position where they have to fight, where their goal in their heart is to get back to a time of peace. And so they're going to wage war as brutally as anyone else so that they can get back to peace. Now, that sentiment has been problematic in American history. I just want to put that note, that caveat there. But overall, I identify with that, and I see, you know, sometimes you just gotta fight. Another example. No, this is really important. It's the bonus show. Who cares? Even if it's not important, it's the bonus show. I'm just talking to you about stuff that I find super interesting. Another example would be Doctor Who. I hope, for the sake of David's audience, that there are some people who know and really enjoy Doctor Who. Matt Smith's Doctor, the 11th Doctor, episode called The Devil's Run. And Devil's Run was the name of the episode, but it was also the name of the base that they, you know, the whole show was centered around. And at the end of, you finally found out what Devil's Run means. And it's a saying that they made up, but it's a saying. And it says, devils run when good men go to war. And you saw a side of the Doctor who is a pacifist, who never uses a gun, who always prefers to avoid violence. You saw him become violent in order to save his friends and to return to the peace. Somehow or another, all of that connects to conversations that I have with my son. I'm pointing over here because he literally sits in this chair that's next to my desk every night, and we just talk. And it's been probably the best I mean, that's my favorite time of the day is to talk to my son. I talk to my daughter, but she prefers talking to her mother, and that's fine. But I talk to my daughter too. And I have a newborn. He's 9 months, and I'm looking forward to the chance where he could sit in this chair and I could talk to him. But I look at the conversations that I have with him, and he is a kind person. And I think that is the core. Like, if you are a kind person, then it's absolutely necessary and okay for us to teach you that sometimes your kindness will be taken advantage of and you are going to have to fight. He doesn't want to fight, but I taught him how. He's got a hell of a punch. I taught him how to box. He boxes my hand and 2 hits and I'm like, okay, that's enough. He can fight, but he doesn't want to fight. And I just know that there's going to come times where, even if it's rhetorically, even if it's politically, even if it's just at work, even if it's just standing up for himself in an email with coworkers, whatever it is, he's got to have it inside of him to step outside of his kindness just enough to take care of what needs to be taken care of. I always start with the possibility that I could be wrong. But what do you think? Do you think I'm wrong? If you think I'm wrong, I don't care. No, I do care. I want to read your comments. Take care, everyone. Thanks for letting, I guess you guys give David positive reviews about me. So I always like coming back and talking with you all. It's a pleasure. See you next time.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.